Welcome in the latest episode of the Five on the Floor podcast on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Make sure to check out 5reasonsports.com, F-I-V-E, reasonsports.com, the only all-free sports website in South Florida where you can get not only stories and columns, but also a YouTube channel. Just went over 3,000 subscribers, have a new baseball show that is debuting this week called Loaded Bases. Also, check out Friends of Five. Floor's Yours, which is an extension of 5 on the Floor. Pulse of Fins Nation, and much more. Also, all of our merchandise, almost done with this. I don't know, we may extend it past the end of the month, but if you enter in the code SPORTSBACK2, that's SPORTSBACK2, you get 10% off if you spend $30 or more, which is basically 2 shirts. So do that, and you'll get 2 shirts. We've got all of our Heat stuff. If you order it now, you'll have it by the season. I can pretty much guarantee you that, as well as our Tua stuff and our 5 Reasons gear. Also, check out all of the great sponsors of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. All of our sponsors are local. All of our sponsors are important to us because they helped us get through COVID, and we feel like actually we're the one sports media outlet that is coming out of this, if it ever ends, in better shape than we went in. But one of them is the Gonzalez and Tybor law firm, and this is for people who did struggle during COVID. And the website is called bankruptcyisgoodforyou.com. That's bankruptcyisgoodforyou.com. The phone number is 954-678-8354, 954-678-8354. They represent clients in South Florida, but also in Orlando, Tampa, and Fort Myers, and they have consultations available via video conference or telephone. So you can be safe and still try to figure out your issue, which may be solved by bankruptcy, because that is one of the few laws that exists to actually help consumers. The new stimulus package that was signed recently, they made some important changes to the bankruptcy laws, so it's important to have a lawyer explain the changes. They've got payment plans and little to no upfront fees. They can help you or anyone you know. So if you're lucky enough to make it through this with no financial problems, chances are you know someone who isn't that lucky. Gonzalez and Tybor can help. Even before the pandemic, a lot of people were carrying a lot of debt and living paycheck to paycheck. Bankruptcy provides a chance to start fresh, and it does not ruin credit. Most people see an increase of 100 to 150 points on their credit score within a year of filing. So again, the law firm is Gonzalez and Tybor. The website is bankruptcyisgoodforyou.com, and the phone number is 954-678-8354. And now, today's episode.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a Miami Heat and NBA podcast from Ethan Skolnick with Alphonse Sidney, a.k.a. Alf954. Brought to you by the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
All right, Ethan Skolnick back on 5 on the Floor. I've got Alphonse Sidney. I've got Greg Sylvander. Of course, Alex Toledo will be joining us on other episodes. Now, we're doing a lot of sort of forward-looking at this point, looking ahead to the season, which is supposed to start on July 30th, provided there's somebody left in the state that doesn't have COVID. But we're also going to look back a little. This is actually a suggestion. We try to pay attention to what goes on Twitter through all of our accounts, including the 5 Reasons Sports account. I had something that came into me this week, guys, that asked me if this was one of the more memorable Miami Heat seasons for a lot of different reasons. And maybe we could take a look back at every Miami Heat season and figure out how this one gets in the top 5. And so we don't have Alex for this one because he wasn't alive for half of them. So Alex can join us in another episode. But Alphonse, you are how old?
I am a young 39.
Greg, you are how old?
38.
And I'm turning 21 for the 26th time. So that's where we are. And so that means that we were alive for most of these. In fact, giving away my age here, my first Heat season I covered was 1996.
We've all been alive for all of them.
That's correct. I mean, you may not have been fully conscious for some of the early ones.
I was 7 years old. I was
That's
7
true.
years old when the Heat came out. So
that's true. Okay.
And Leif, you were a Heat fan like from the beginning, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, like 89 is when I started to kind of gear toward basketball, and then 1990 I was all into it. So that was really the year that I got completely connected to Miami Heat basketball.
See, I didn't become a Heat fan until Riley came down, because I was a Riley fan because
you're fair.
I think I've told the story before, because my father was a big Magic Johnson fan.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a Laker fan. So I loved Pat Riley, and when Pat Riley became the Heat coach is when I finally started paying attention to the Miami Heat. I remember them on WBFS Channel 33, and like hating and it's like just completely like this is pro basketball. I'm a fan, and I was watching Nick Van and Cedric Ceballos as a Laker fan. But then like when Riley came down, I started really paying attention to the Heat, and that's when they started to become my favorite team. So,
well, my story is a little different because I grew up, as a lot of people know, a Knick fan, and was really a hardcore Knick fan during the Riley years. I mean, I was during the Hubie Brown years. I mean, I remember Louis Orr and Trent Tucker very well. But then when it got to be the Riley years, I mean, John Starks is the only basketball jersey I've ever owned. And so I lived and died with those Knicks teams that I knew were not good enough. I knew it, but it was like, and then it's funny because then when I came down here and started covering the Heat in the same way that I started covering the Dolphins and had to drop my Jets allegiance, the Heat became what the Knicks were, which is really good, but not good enough, gritty and pain in the ass to play. But ultimately, don't have that piece to get them over the top. And that's what the Knicks were. I mean, that was Charles Smith getting blocked by Scotty and Michael and all of that. And so
make a freaking layup. Because I rooted for the Knicks against the and that's a hard thing to say as a Heat fan. I rooted for the Knicks against the Bulls because I hated the Bulls because my brother was a Bulls fan and I love Riley. So I rooted for the Knicks, and like Charles Smith missing like 18 layups in a row.
Wait, Ethan, so you were a Knicks fan when John Starks had that Game 7?
Oh.
Yes, I was. That was actually
that is a tough scene.
Well, that was actually sort of my last real time as a Knicks fan because after that I went to Columbia Journalism School 94 through 95, and then I came down here to work. I worked at the LA Times, Baltimore Sun briefly, and then interned, and then came down here. And in 1996, I was working at the Palm Beach Post, and my first gig was backup on the Heat and the Panthers. So I was the backup writer. It was actually myself and Rachel, now Nichols, but at the time Alexander. We were the backups on the Heat and the Panthers for the Palm Beach Post and the Sun Sentinel, respectively. Her career has got a little better than mine. And so I was there for the Panthers' run to the finals at the same time as I was covering a really compelling Heat team. And I'll always remember, I always tell the story about how, I decided to go on a date on trading deadline day when Riley, promised at practice at LaSalle in Miami that there would be no trades and there wasn't even any chatter. And so I decided to go to dinner. And at the time there were no cell phones, or I didn't have a cell phone. I had a beeper. And so I got beeped in the middle of a nice meal. And I called the office and found out that the Heat had traded 5 players for 5 players. And one of the players they were getting was Tim Hardaway. So that's where I go back to. So I lost my whole allegiance to the Knicks. And then, there were all those Heat Knicks playoff series and you get attached to the players you're covering. And so by the end of those, I didn't like the Knicks very much. that was pretty much.
So wait, Ethan, so you're kind of a fan.
I mean, I was a fan. But
no, I'm talking about the Heat right now. Like, you're kind of a fan.
No, I'm a fan of the people I've covered. Al. That's as far as I'm going.
You will not admit that you.
We almost got him.
We almost got him, Leif. I run
a fanalist network now. I think this is about as far as I can go. I've come to the line. Okay, I've recognized that sports has changed and that the media is allowed to sort of not cheer in the press box, but at least have an interest in who wins. But I would not call myself a fan. No, I'm a fan of the way the Heat organization has treated me through the years. Yes. I'm not, to say I'm a fan, you'll have to judge by my work. Some people will say I've become more of a fan in the last 2 years. That may be the case.
Leif, have I ever told you what he's done to me? Like when I fist pumped on a Myers Leonard 3?
Oh, trust me, I got text messages that were like, "Make sure you don't fist pump or you don't cheer in the."
He's literally like hit me. Like he's assaulted me in press row.
I'm just trying to keep everybody in line with the rules. That's all.
I remember it was the first game that I've covered as media, and we're sitting in press row. And it was like one of the first games of the season, of course. And they kick it out to Myers. It's first quarter. It's probably like 2 minutes in. And Myers nails the 3. And I just give a little fist pump. And Ethan gave me the sharpest little elbow ever. I'm like, what the fuck? And he's like, no, you can't cheer. I'm like, oh, I guess I can't. So like I learned from that. Like, and there's been a couple times Ethan's admonished me in press row because I fist pump. Like I'm not standing up and cheering or anything, but I fist pump. I you know, a little bit, yeah, okay, you know, and he gets mad.
It would be hard not to fist pump for that hero step back against the Sixers. Like if
but they weren't sitting with me though. That's the thing.
Did you ever hear that story, Leif?
No.
Me and Alex were sitting where they sit scouts because it was such a big game. So ESPN was there, everybody was there. So they threw me and Alex up into, and they didn't put us, which was very respectful. They didn't put us up in like the upper deck, like where you're sitting by Jordan's jersey. They put us in like this the scout table, like by the Doers Lounge, which is a nice little area to watch the game. But there was no other media there. Alex and I were jumping up and down, chest bumping, like we were so unprofessional. But we knew there were no eyes on us, so we went nuts. That game, me and Alex like showed our ass. Like we're like, Ethan's not here. We're having the time of our lives. This is the best game of the year. If Ethan was there, he probably would have killed us both.
What were you there for the? And I do want to get to our topic tonight. Were you there for the? Or was that? I think it was Alex was there for the Atlanta game where they were down 13 or something this year with about a minute left. You weren't there for that one. Alex was.
I watched that from home. I remember that.
Okay. Because I was in the crowd for that one because I took someone with me. And so I was about 10 rows ahead of Alex. And as this was happening, the person I was with had never been to a game before. So this person, I won't give away a gender, but this person was like, oh, we need to leave. There's no way they can win. And I'm like, no, they've done this before. Like this was, they're down like 13 with like a minute left. And so, of course, they come back, and that was the one where Trae Young basically, called it over, and then the Heat scored 22 consecutive points or something like that. And I kept – because I gave away the gender. This person is, like, jumping up and down, like, screaming because of this, this is this great thing that's happening. And I kept looking back because I knew Alex was going to admonish me if I got it. Because when you're in the crowd, it's different. And I didn't want to like set a bad example, so I'm just like sitting there, and like she's looking at me like, "Why aren't you excited?" I'm like,
"Yeah, like why? Yeah, you're not participating."
I can't cheer.
He's like, "I'm a journalist."
I'm a journalist.
We brought you down to our fan level, Ethan.
That's right.
Listen, Poppy Lebitard gets credentials. Like, let's get over.
That's true. All right, what are we doing here? Oh yeah, okay. Can this be one of the Heat's 5 most compelling seasons? So here, Leif, you sent me a list. All right. Well, let's work off your list. Let's try to work these down to 5. All right. Yeah. So here's 5 that you gave me. I'm going to go from the first year that you gave me, 96-97, which was the first year that the Heat were really a contender. This is post-Zo and Timmy. Okay. That's 96-97. You don't have anything before that. Do we rule out anything before that?
I think you have to.
Yeah, I mean,
the inaugural year was fun, and like everyone came in tuxedos on opening night, and the court color was a little weird if you look back on it. And obviously, but it was a bad season. There was really, when Rory Sparrow is your best player, like I don't necessarily know that we can make that one of the top 5 most memorable seasons.
Yeah, there's a lot of bimbo Coles. Like if you have 3 championships. Mm-hmm. You can't count anything that happened before Zo came as a memorable season.
I think that's fair. All right, so let's move off of that. So the next one you have on the list, and I guess it's funny because that season 96-97 didn't end the way you wanted it to end anyway. But you go through, they kept losing to the Knicks. So I guess we can wipe out the other regular seasons. To me are kind of a blur, even though I covered all of them. I remember there was one year they got off to a blazing start, and they just looked like a fine-tuned machine. Like, I just remember them blowing people out the first 25 games of the year. But it ended the same, losing to the Knicks. So, it's all memorable, all those years. Like, if we're just using the term memorable, like Jamal Mashburn's, not taking a shot was memorable. Allen Houston's shot was memorable. All of that stuff, the pulling on Van Gundy's leg was memorable. But I guess if you're going to pick one, it's just 96-97. All right, so then Zo gets sick. They flame out against Charlotte in the playoffs. I don't think we can count that one. So the next one on the list, and I'm just going to say this is going to be in everybody's top 5, right? 03, 04?
See, this gets difficult for me. Like, I trust me, I want to put 0304, but the more that I unpack this, it was really difficult to get them in the top 5. But I will understand and predict that most Heat fans will have that season in their top 5.
I think a lot of Heat fans still have that season 1.
That brought me back to the Heat. That brought me back to the Heat as a fan. I'm going to be honest with you guys. Like, I had my West Coast team was the Lakers, my East Coast team was the Heat, and I stopped paying attention to the Heat after like 99, 2000, and that season, what Dwyane Wade was doing against the Hornets and the Pacers, like that brought me back to being a Miami Heat fan. So to me, like that season is Brian Grant, Karan Butler, Lamar Odom. It's the catalyst of everything that's happened since to me.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's difficult to put it in the top 5 for this one reason, and that's that the moment that Riles could blow that team up and completely reshape it, he did. And I know that obviously the Shaq trade is a no-brainer to 99.9% of the people on this planet. But because of that fact, because you saw that it was not necessarily a finished product and it was a transition year really, and Wade popping up out of nowhere and kind of becoming this superstar, particularly in round 2 against Indiana, that's like kind of like it was the icing on the cake that season. But I don't know. There's when you think about the 3 championship years and some of these other years, like it gets tough. But I can see why you guys are putting them there.
Leif, isn't that the blueprint for the Miami Heat going forward that year? Like that year was a bunch of homegrown guys.
Mm-hmm.
It was a bunch of it was finding guy cast-offs, rehabilitating them, turning them into viable options, and then trading them all away for a superstar. Like that was what it was like, and that's what the Heat has been ever since then, right? That's the modern day blueprint of what the Miami Heat is. So you look at it like right now, people are talking would they trade Miles, their current Dwyane Wade. They're not trading him for anything. But all these guys that they've turned into viable role players and options, like those guys will be cast off for a Bradley Beal or a Victor Oladipo. Like this is like 2003 is setting the blueprint for who the Miami Heat have become for the next 17 to 20 years.
Well, when you look at the 03-04 team, and again, you also got to look at moments. So, okay, how many moments are there that we remember? Well, okay, I mean, I remember Lamar Odom's triple-double on a Sunday vividly.
Against Sacramento, right?
Against Sacramento. I remember Rafer Alston's shot. Remember that one?
Yeah, in the corner against Toronto or someone like that?
Right, I believe it was Toronto. Obviously Dwyane's runner in the lane. I have a huge blown up photo of this. So, my daughter asked me the other day why I'm looking confused because I'm sitting behind the baseline and Dwyane's just about to release the ball. And it was like you knew you were watching history with him coming out, and then the Jermaine O'Neal dunk, the dunk over Jermaine. There were moments there. That first round series was interesting. I think I don't know if it'll make top 5, but I think it's definitely in the mix. All right, but the next one you have 04-05 and 05-06, and here I'm torn on this. I covered both, and 04-05 was much more enjoyable. It was just
it's true.
It was Shaq's first run. He and Dwyane were developing this,
it was a better team too.
Chemistry. It was a better fit team.
Not even fit. That is outside of 12 and 13. That's the best Miami Heat team you'll ever see.
Yeah, it was considering that they had Damon Jones in their starting lineup. It was pretty amazing that they were really good and they were dominant at times during that season, like dominant.
59 wins.
And the next season they were not. The next season was the Stan thing under the cloud of suspicion. There was, Shaq sitting out. There was Dwyane getting banged up. There was a whole bunch of stuff in that next year that was not fun. But yes, 15 strong and they win a championship. I mean, Heat fans are going to pick 05, 06, and I get it. To me, it's you got to pick one or the other. But 04, 05 was more fun, in my opinion. Like, the end result was not more fun. I get it. The end result might have been a lot different if Dwyane doesn't pull the ribcage muscle. But
yeah, no. And the other thing is, if we really break down moments, there was more moments in Game 6 against Dallas in 2006 than maybe all that we would remember from the regular season the year prior. So like then it's you just start to see kind of the gravity of the moment, and then it's difficult to not keep 05, 06 in the in the running there. But I totally agree. Regular season wise, the first year Shaq was an MVP candidate. It kind of looked like a team that was going to make the finals, and it was just one Wade rib injury away. So
and it felt big. The Heat felt big that time, and the next year it felt choppy, and it just was not. It's like
it felt Antoine Walker.
Yeah,
the Heat were destined to go to the finals that year. Like the Heat were running through the East.
Yes.
There were, I'm not saying they swept everybody, but they were like a destined team. Like they were beating the hell out of people. Like that team was better than 06. And I know some people disagree with me on that, but like that team was better than 06.
No, it was a better. I think on paper, and again, the reason that Pat made the trades was because he didn't think so. On paper, the 05-06 team was better. I think so, I believe. But
you mean the 04-05 team?
No. On paper, the 05-06 team was better. There was more talent.
No,
in the 05-06.
No. I don't even think so.
No, there was. Look, and I'm an Eddie.
You're talking
Jones.
about over the hill names, though.
Yeah, but I'm an Eddie Jones guy. But like, look, I mean, you're talking about you subbed out, and I was the one who wrote the big screaming headline in the Sun Sentinel that Sedano's never let me off the hook for, that I didn't like the trades. But if you just look at it on paper, you're talking about replacing Damon Jones with Jason Williams. That's an upgrade. Okay. So you sent out Eddie Jones, but you brought in Posey and Walker. That's an upgrade. All right. I mean, as much as I like Eddie, if you got both guys for that position. So that team was better. The second team was better.
But you know what? It's hard because when you look back, like when I think back about those times, like, yes, James Posey stepped up. Yes, Antoine Walker stepped up. Yes, Gary Payton stepped up. Yes, Jason Williams stepped up.
Too, right? Gary replaced Ray.
Like, these guys were not supposed to be. Like, Gary Payton just got off of a stint with the Los Angeles Lakers where he looked like he couldn't play basketball anymore. So there's a lot of things that happened in 06 that were outliers. Like, it's hard for me to say that, yes, I believed in Antoine Walker going into that season. You know what I mean? It was like nobody did. Like, we all were like, what, Antoine Walker? Like, are you kidding me?
Right.
Like, Boston let him go because Paul Pierce was the next coming.
No, I get it. Like I said, I was the guy who didn't like the trades, but I think on paper it was better, but this 04-05 was more enjoyable.
I still think you're right for not liking the trades. Like, I don't care what
I was, except for a 6-week run. I mean, it was almost, you talk about being objective in the media. It was almost hard for me to enjoy that run because, no, it really was. It really, because I did not want to be wrong. I did not want to, because I didn't want to, everybody was on me about it. And I had such a conviction that I didn't like the trades. I didn't like the mix. And I was kind of right because they overwhelmed Stan, which is one of the things I thought was going to happen. But I did not think that Pat was going to take over. And I also,
that team. Okay, and Leif, I want your opinion on this. And I know we got to keep going on. That team had no business winning a title. It really didn't. In my honest opinion, it had no. That's why I love 06. I love 06 because that team had no business. Antoine Walker had no business just being a catalyst, the second leading scorer on an NBA Finals champion.
No.
It just that.
Well,
team
that's why
no
Dwyane
business.
said what he said. But that's why Dwyane said what he said the other day, where Dwyane.
They weren't fast enough.
Better. Yeah,
you know what that team was? That team was tough as shit. But Leif, give me your opinion. Like, I want to hear your opinion because I don't feel like that team was like Dwyane was that good.
Yeah, no, you're right. Ultimately, it was pieces that didn't fit. there was a million different reasons why they didn't fit, and it was beyond just basketball stuff, but even the personalities and things like that. But in retrospect, it ultimately showed, one, how great Dwyane Wade was, and obviously I think that you can't discount that lightning in a bottle, like that they caught that, and like Ethan said, 6 weeks and they got it done. But ultimately, it wasn't really a title team. I think if you really look back on that season, the Indiana Pacers team that got kind of squashed because of Ron Artest's antics was probably the best team in the league.
They were. They
would have won a title.
That team should have won a title. That was an elite team. And they should have won a title. And it is a testament to Pat. But I always come back to this. Everybody thought Pat was, sort of trying to, and I did at the time too, because I was fed some stuff that didn't turn out to be accurate. But everybody thought Pat was kind of scheming to try to become the head coach. And I will always remember this story where Gary Payton, walked into Pat's office and basically said, "Okay, where we go from here?" And Pat's like, "What are we running?" And that's kind of how this thing started. If you look back, no disrespect, okay, but if you look back at the last, and whenever somebody says no disrespect, they're about to disrespect. If you look back at the last 20 years of title teams, the 06 Heat would be in the bottom 5 of the last 20.
Well,
they would be in the bottom 5.
And that's why Dwyane Wade's performance would be in the top 5. Yes. I think Alf was about to say that.
Yes. Absolutely. There's no question about it. All right, let's move on to the next. You know what? Before we got more to get to, so let me tell you about another great – I knew this episode was going to run long. Let me tell you about another great sponsor of the 5 Reasons Sports Network, and that's Making America Clean Again. It's a division of Greenview Construction. Again, another advertiser, sponsor that is perfect for these times. Why? Because nobody's going to want to walk into your business or residence unless they know it's cleaned, unless they know it's sanitized, unless they know that it's disinfected, unless they know that it's sterilized. So get that certificate. They can do short-term or long-term work. They can even install a UV generator into your ductwork so they can make sure again, this is Greenview Construction, Making America Clean Again, that your place is safe, open for business, and that everybody feels comfortable there, because as we see, COVID is not going away anytime soon. This is the new normal. There's going to be lasting effects. And so you got to reach out to our guy, Chris, over at Greenview Construction. It's Making America Clean Again, MACAINC.net. That's macainc.net, MACAINC.net. Again, get the 3-step cleaning process: cleaned, sanitized, disinfected, and then sterilized. That's 4 parts, but the clean and sanitize comes together. macainc.net. All right, let's get to some of these others, and then we're going to see where this team fits, because you see how hard this competition is. As much people are having fun here with this season, some of these seasons are a little bit, they're gonna jump out in front just because of their titles. Can we decide 04, 05, or 05, 06? Just which one, Leif? You said 05, 06?
Yeah, just off the strength of Zoe's game 6 by itself. I mean, not even counting Dwyane, just Zoe on the floor screaming, Twan with the shimmy. Like, those moments will forever be imprinted in every Miami Heat fan's memory. So you got to go there. Sorry, Alf.
Alf?
No, I also agree. Like, you win a championship. Like, there was this just weird fan on Twitter who was saying that, yeah, I understand that when LeBron came to Miami, they won 2 championships, but they mortgaged their future. So it was kind of disappointing. I'm like, dude, you won a championship. Right. There's no such thing as disappointing off of winning championships. Right. Yes, we won 2 titles, but I'd rather have the assets. Like, shut the fuck up. Like, it's so stupid.
Well, if that was the case, Danny Ainge, you would just, Danny
Ainge,
all-time general manager, because
he'd have 16 rings at this point.
They've held on to more assets. I'm going with 04, 05, but I lose. So we'll throw 05, 06 in.
Wait. You're going 04, 05 as a more memorable season?
It was more fun, and I'm sorry, I can't get over being wrong about 05, 06.
That's a personal thing, because there's no way.
It's a personal thing. All right, so let's get to the big 3 seasons, and I'm going to disagree with you guys off the jump on this, because I know where Leif's going, because he sent me 2 big 3 seasons in his top 5, and not the season that I would pick. To me, the most memorable big 3 season was 10-11. And maybe it's because I was on the ground for it, and I covered 79 of the 82 regular season games, home and road, and then every playoff game. But there will never be a season like that in NBA history again. I don't care if they lost at the end. In fact, it was more memorable because they lost at the end and the way they lost at the end. 12-13 to me is there because of the 27-game winning streak and everything that played out that year. I will be honest, I don't remember a lot of 11-12, and I was there for all those games too. I remember the opening night in Dallas, and I remember the title.
It was just that shortened season. That's why it was weird.
It got compressed. But 10-11, Leif, it has to be there. I mean,
I agree with you on 10-11. I really do, because you know what's funny about 10-11, and I don't know if you guys are going to agree with me on this. 10-11 legitimized every super team afterwards. 7 to let the sports fan know that it doesn't matter how much talent you put on the floor together. Like, there's a lot of other things that go into it. So 10-11, just every super team, when LeBron went back to the Cavs and he had 3 superstars, and when the Golden State Warriors had superstars, you will never be able to discount a super team again because of 10-11. 10-11 is such an important year in basketball history. So I think that's definitely top 5.
December 2nd, 2010 for me is enough. Okay, that one night in Cleveland is enough to put it ahead of the other big 3 seasons, because that it's just, that night is not like no other night I'll ever experience. And I mean, when we left our seats in the third quarter because the batteries were being thrown. I've never experienced anything like that. And then you add to that Bumpgate, Chillgate, Contraction Gate. I mean, Crygate. I mean, they were all bad. Okay,
right?
But they still, but even with that, still beat Boston. Still beat Chicago in one of the most memorable, last dashes you'll ever see, and basically, Dwyane and LeBron screaming, ham in the locker room, and everything that went on with that. But the thing about 10-11 that you just can't compare, we would be in Memphis or Portland, there was no chance LeBron was signing with those teams. And it was the biggest event of the year in those towns, and the hatred that he was getting, and the personal struggle that he was going through trying to be a villain. To me, that year, even though they lost, was more memorable than the other 3 years combined to me. And, and even I sum it all up, and I remember being at a Whataburger at 2:30 in the morning, Dallas time. Okay. And being there at a drive-through, and seeing that LeBron had just tweeted "now or never," between Game 4 and Game 5. I mean, we'll never see a season like that again. To me, that's first of the big 3 era.
You know what? When I initially sent the list, I have a mental block over that Dallas finals, because there's only a few moments in Heat history that have literally, as a fan, brought me to my knees. And that was one of them, that loss to Dallas, because we had gotten over the hump against Boston and Chicago, and nobody thought that was going to happen. Chicago kind of owned the Heat all throughout the regular season, and Boston was this playoff tested team. So, when they beat both of those teams, it was such validation. And then to get smacked in the face by Dallas when you knew you were better, and that Dwyane corner 3 early in the finals, just thinking back on all that, it was over. It really was. But regular season wise, you guys are hitting the nail on the head, and I could not agree with you guys more.
Well, I will disagree with Ethan on one thing. I think that season is top 5.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it's over either of the championship seasons, because the season that the Heat beat the Thunder, that's LeBron's first championship.
It is, but the moments are not. I
understand but that has to be LeBron on the sideline, on that Kanye track,
mm-hmm.
and he's waving his arms. That might be the biggest moment in Miami Heat history.
Well, also, it was a collective sigh of relief, as well as just being it was that Game 5 was a party. You know what I mean?
It was,
but there was also a certain element of oh my gosh, that we finally won. Everyone hates us. This is validated. This thing worked. And so that's why I immediately, when I sent you my 5, it was there, and that first big 3 team wasn't. But if you really drill down into the season,
memorable. Okay, I see. I agree with you. Maybe if it depends on what you call memorable, right? So honestly, that first 10-11 season wouldn't be in my top 5. Because there's the 3 Heat seasons that they won championships.
Mm-hmm.
To me, 05-06, Shaq's first season is there, and we can talk more about it later. But the season where they went to Game 7 with Toronto and Bosch's first blood clot season is up there for me.
Yeah, but see, okay, and this is, and I that's the last
Second
one
blood
that I covered,
clot
home
season.
and road. To me, that one doesn't come in the top 10. My thing is, and I think this is where we're separating a little bit. You guys are thinking more like fans, and I'm thinking more like a reporter, because I don't automatically put 3 championships in as most memorable. I understand that most impact on a franchise, I get that, and most impact for a fan. But when I think memorable, the 10-11 season is the most memorable season in Heat history. That's because it's one of the most memorable seasons in NBA history.
You're right. You're right.
And nobody's every moment from that. JJ Barea, okay, signing Mike Bibby, everything that happened in the LeBron's meltdown. But again, the Boston series, overcoming the Celtics. I mean, we can talk about winning a championship, but the thing was, overcoming the Celtics there in the playoffs after you didn't play well against them in the regular season, remember? And that was the whole thing. And what were they?
Beating Chicago.
Beating Chicago in Rose's
Game 5 in your
MVP
face for
season.
life.
Right. I mean, I was lucky enough to be courtside for that one, all right, or baseline. And, I was already writing a piece about them going back to Miami and squandering this opportunity.
And I will never understand, what LeBron did on the way to the finals. Just clutch performance and just just big onions, just beating
he was tremendous.
Out.
Dwyane was terrible in that series against Chicago. Everybody forgets that. He was terrible.
But the last 4 minutes of that game against Chicago, Game 5, Dwyane destroyed them.
Yeah, that was the 4 minutes breakout he had in that. But remember, Bosch had some horrible performances in Chicago that season too. But you're right. And how it is that LeBron melted down against Dallas. But I honestly think a lot of it was the national media descended on him there. And I mean, I don't want to give him too much credit, but the Greg Doyle question, man, it got in LeBron's head, that thing about disappearing in the fourth quarter. And it's like LeBron zoned out after that. And we've tried on the podcast. I mean, how many of these Heat Stories episodes have we done where we've tried to get somebody to explain? I tried to get Shane to explain it. What happened to LeBron in that series? And nobody has ever. There's no big personal secret. When Chalmers melted down in the 2014 finals against the Spurs, if you recall that, to the point that LeBron asked me, he was walking on the court in the arena after LeBron did his podium thing in the back and Mario, and he asked me what the hell's wrong with Rio. And what was wrong with Rio was he was going through some personal stuff at the time. There wasn't any of that with LeBron.
There's nothing. There's no explanation for what LeBron did.
No, he just melted down. He just melted down. I think everything from the season crashed down in him at that same time. And the release was the comment he made about you can all go back to your lives now. It was like he was waiting for that rather than winning a championship.
Leif, I don't know. I feel like me and you are kind of on the same wavelength where we believe a lot in analytics. We believe in the numbers, but there's a certain part of a sport we believe in emotion. Do you feel like – I feel like LeBron in 2011 is one of the biggest choke jobs in history.
Oh, for sure. It has to be because of everything that he did prior to that, and particularly swallowing up the league MVP and showing what a fraudulent award that was. All of those things, you could never have guessed that LeBron was going to do that. And to Ethan's point, this is what makes that season so memorable. And it's unfortunate that it leaves a bad taste in a Heat fan's mouth like myself, but you can't deny that will forever be ingrained in every NBA conversation about how that team came together and everyone loved watching them lose. But it goes back to why that Thunder title is so important from a Heat fan perspective, is that was the moment that we could look back at the entire nation and say, haha, we got this. You know what I mean?
I will never forget LeBron on the sidelines, just like jumping up and down, arms waving, like just like he looked like a child. You know what I'm saying? Like it was a child. It was a childhood joy in his face when they were playing the. It wasn't because they weren't playing Seven Nation Army. It was a Kanye track. Leif, you probably can tell me what track it was.
Not Kanye.
Was it what was it when he was?
No, it could have been. I'm saying I don't remember Kanye songs. Just generally speaking,
because we hate Kanye. But it was like when he was waving his arms, it was like this childlike joy in his face. I'll never forget that, man. I've never been happier. Like Dwyane Wade is my favorite athlete of all time. And him and Mike Magic Johnson, and then Lawrence Taylor. Like I have a list. And Shaquille O'Neal is in my top 5. But I've never been happier for a man, an athlete, than LeBron James when they beat the Thunder and they destroyed them in that game 5. So to me, like I understand what Ethan is saying. Like when you talk about memorable seasons, there's like storylines and there's all these different things. And so like I think what Ethan wants to get to is like this season. If the Heat go to an Eastern Conference Finals and they lose in 7 games against the Bucks, like where do you put this Heat season?
Well, I think a lot will depend on like if this is the launching pad for something else in the next 2 off seasons, because I think that part of the allure that we hold so near and dear to our heart about 03-04 is that we saw in retrospect what a launching pad that was to that entire Heat era with Wade and everything like that becoming a contending team. So I think there's an element of it that we got to see that part of it. But I think anything less than the Eastern Conference Finals and this season, while it was awesome and it's been a lot of fun, and there's a ton of things about this season that are super positive going forward, I just don't know how it cracks into that top. I mean, I guess there's a storyline with the shutdown and coming back from that and winning a title in a bubble or getting to the finals in a bubble or wherever you get to. So there's definitely ways that this team can creep into this conversation because there's a lot of guys that I think the fans love. There's young players that the fans are getting behind, and that's a huge thing that I don't think Heat fans have had necessarily the chance to do as much as maybe some other franchises, is get behind a core group of young guys for any length of time, because generally they're packaged and flipped for a Shaq. And that's awesome. I mean, we love that, but these guys, a lot of them I think are here to stay for the most part. And so there's a way, but it's going to take a lot here.
Without a deep playoff run or a finals appearance, I feel like this team gets forgotten, and I don't think it should be. But I feel like the team not gets forgotten, but it's not going to register in the top 6, 7, 8 Heat seasons of all time.
Well, let's decide off what they are first. So if we're going to go with, to me, okay, we've decided it gets challenging. 96, 97, we didn't talk about a lot because, again, when you get 25 years out, it's hard to have as many memories of it. But I feel like we need one of those teams. I think we agreed on – well, you guys agreed on 06. To me, 10-11 is a given. 3-4 to me is a given, I believe. I know, Leif, you didn't come here. And then I think the next one to me would be 12-13, not 11-12. I understand I understand the first title. I get it. I understand LeBron getting over the hump. There's probably a lot of things I'm forgetting from that season, but it was, the winning the 3 games in 3 nights and the back-to-back. There was a lot of stuff that happened, but a lot of it was kind of like, okay, the Heat are okay now. They got past the first year stuff. whereas 12-13 was memorable because it was excellence that we've never seen from this franchise and probably never will again. That 27-game winning streak was, we saw the best player in the world, maybe the best player of all time, certainly one of the top three, at the peak of his powers for months. And Dwyane was at an elite level during that winning streak also. And you knew the 9 guys who were playing every night. They were dominant. You had the Danny Ainge moment, manage your own effing team, all of that stuff. And then you finish it with a Ray Allen shot. It's 12-13 belongs. I don't
100%. No, we just hadn't got there yet chronologically. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that was the next season on the list, and we've just been veering off in all different directions. But it has to be.
The question is, what would have to happen this season?
Well, I think what would have to, I mean, to me, it would have to be well, there's a couple of things that are playing against it. Okay. One is you've lost first thing, the Heat didn't play particularly well for like a 3-week period going into the break, into the unexpected break. And so you've lost some momentum. Now you're going to have games not in front of fans. And one of the things that makes games memorable is the fan reaction. And you don't have that this time. So I think the only way it gets there, I understand what you're saying, Leif, about, the idea of players of, people have associated with the players on this team. They've kind of fallen in love with Bam. They've developed connections with Hero, with Robinson. Even, I polled this, who is the MVP of the break? And Myers Leonard got 70% of the vote. I think there's a lot of fans didn't know that much about Myers who during the 3 months, have fallen in love with Myers, just the way that he's interacted with fans. So I think some of that has happened. But I think that ultimately for this to be that memorable, it would have to be a finals appearance, an unexpected finals run, or a title. That's it. I don't see how you top, the first great Zoe season, the 06 title, the first LeBron season, even the first Shaq season. The you guys say 11-12, I say 12-13, but I know Leif says 12-13, or even 03-04. I think 03-04 has the most parallels to this season. This team is better than that team, but it does feel somewhat similar, and Heat fans still love that year. So I think it can get there, but I think you would have to upset the Bucks, right?
Well, yeah, and this is the other part of it that I think subconsciously Heat fans are thinking about 2021. And it's just inevitable. Like, I think that it shouldn't be an elephant in the room that this has all been accelerated in terms of this roster and how successful the team has been, that this is all happening a little ahead of schedule, quite frankly. So there's an element of the fan subconscious that's thinking about summer 2021 and the Bam Giannis shirts and that kind of stuff and what the team may look like then. And that's just, it's not a knock on this team at all. It's just, it was always looked as a transition season. And I just think that fans, ultimately, that's going to stick to their gut when they know that big things could be ahead.
Yeah, no doubt. What is the moment from this year? Is the hero shot?
The hero shot against
Philly,
the Sixers.
Right?
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm sneezing.
No problem.
That's not a
Yeah,
roll.
you don't have to say it. Today I was out and I sneezed 3 times, and everybody looks at you like it happens. It is the hero shot, but I mean, there were all the comebacks, but the comebacks kind of ran together, like all these I mentioned the Atlanta game. There were a few of them. You had the big win up in Milwaukee without Jimmy. You had again beating the Sixers 3 times. You didn't.
Jimmy
but you don't
blowing
have
a kiss at the Pacers.
Blowing the kiss at the Pacers.
That may end up becoming a storyline that comes back to us, which is a good thing.
Right. And so, but you need those storylines, right? And I just wonder if you're going to be able to generate that level of passion when nobody's going to be in the stands to see it. It's just different. You don't have. What the Heat had in 2011, where they silenced the Bulls crowd on the road, or silenced the Celtics in Game 6, with LeBron, and everything that happened there. You're not going to have that this time, and it's going to be this antiseptic environment in Orlando. I mean, in every sense of the word. It's
So Ethan, I talked about this on Talk About Sports last night. I don't know if it's 5 Reasons to Drink or Talk About Sports. I don't know what's called.
one of those, something, yeah.
One of our live streaming shows. Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson and Kendrick Nunn and a lot of these young guys on the Heat that are very important to their success are very familiar with playing at a place like Wide World of Sports in Orlando with a small crowd.
Yes,
and from my background, and Leif knows this, I coached AAU, so I've been there with small crowds. Maybe your family, your parents are in the crowd. Like, there's no big. The pressure isn't there. It's not the pressure of a crowd. I'm saying it's the pressure of the crowd isn't there. So right now I'm wondering, and listen, everyone wants to talk about analytics. No one ever wants to talk about the emotional side of sports anymore. But if you're a guy like Tyler Hero who played in empty gyms 2 years ago, year and a half ago, Duncan Robinson been playing in empty gyms. Kendrick Nunn's been playing in empty gyms. Jimmy Butler has forgotten what it's like to not feed off of a crowd. Mm-hmm. So when you look at it, like, is there going to be an advantage to the young guys who are 1 year, 2 years out of AAU compared to the guys that are used to playing in front of packed arenas?
There's a lot of reasons, and I did by the time this pod runs, it probably won't be tonight, but I did a hit on WSVN, and that's one of the things I talked about, was that there's so many things that are playing into the Heat's hands right now. I think I think to win in this circumstance, you need an elite coach. They have it. You need players who want to be together because they're going to be stuck together. They have it. You're going to need a bunch of young guys on the team whose legs are going to come back quicker than everybody else's. They have it. You're going to need depth because you're not going to know which guys are going to pull hamstrings or who's going to come in not in the best shape. They have it. And then you need some experience and some leadership. And I think in Butler and Dragic and Haslam, they have it. And then they have what you're talking about, which is that I think a lot of these guys are just gym rats. They don't really care who's in the crowd. And like you said, it wasn't that long enough ago. They weren't playing in front of any crowds. Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, and Kendrick Nunn look just as good playing in the little gym at Cox Pavilion in Vegas as they did in the big Thomas and Mack Center next door. I don't think it matters to them. And so I agree with you. I think there's a lot of things that play into the Heat's hands. And I also do I see that they can make a run? Absolutely. But the question for this pod is, how deep does the run have to be for it to be top 5 in Heat history?
Eastern Conference Finals, Game 7.
I think it has to be a finals appearance. But that's me. I think if they can push this thing all the way to the finals, I think that it gets there. I think it gets there. All right, so that's it. Check out our sponsors, macainc.net. That's macainc.net, or bankruptcyisgoodforyou.com. That's the Gonzalez and Tybor law firm. Bankruptcyisgoodforyou.com. Check that out. Also, all of our other sponsors, christophersbakery.com, you break wheel fix.com. We got a bunch of sponsors in the network. Make sure you support them and check out 5reasonsports.com.
Thank you for listening to the 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.